The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome everyone to Google Forms. My name is Trish Connor-Cato. This class is recommended for users who would like to get to know Google Forms in more depth or who are converting to Google Workspace apps from another Office suite such as Microsoft Office. This class will show you how to create, edit, share, send forms, and review responses. We'll start with the basics: signing into Google Apps, using the Apps menu, and accessing forms from Google Drive. You'll then learn how to create a new form, adding questions to a form, and previewing the form. We'll end the first module by creating a new form using a template. In the second module, we'll start working with form questions by modifying and reordering them. We'll insert titles and sections and further explore working with sections. You'll learn how to make a question required as well as showing questions based on answers. In the third module, we'll begin managing form responses. First, we will send a form, fill out a form, and review form responses. We'll move on to linking a form to a spreadsheet and viewing responses in the linked spreadsheet. Module 4 will see us working with form settings. You'll learn how to change general options, presentation options, and how to change default settings. We will then switch our focus in Module 5 to changing form appearance. In this module, you'll learn how to modify the theme and background colors before learning how to change the font and adding a header image. The sixth module will find us using forms to create a quiz. We'll start by setting up a form as a quiz, adding an answer key, and adding feedback to answers. You'll learn how to change options for releasing grades, send emails to respondents with answers, and we'll end that module by learning how to make a copy of a form. The focus in Module 7 is adding images and videos to a form. You'll learn how to add an image to a question and a form, as well as adding a video to a form in this module. Our eighth and final module will focus on using additional form features. You'll learn how to allow respondents to attach files before getting into how to upload a file from your computer and from My Drive. Also, how to locate uploaded files in My Drive. We'll delve into creating a pre-filled form and creating a pre-filled form using hyperlinks. We'll end the course by importing form questions and creating a form template. For this course, you can use several different types of Google accounts to be successful. You can use personal student or a business account through Google Workspace accounts. Now, there is truly only one module that has one lesson that requires a business account. So if you don't have one, I wouldn't worry about it. And that's the last lesson in this course. And that's being able to create a form from a template. So you would need a business account for that. If you don't have one, no worries. You will see it demonstrated on my screen. And in addition to that, I would recommend having two different accounts. So personal might be best for you. So you have an account that you can create in and then send forms to other accounts that you have control over. Personal would be the best way to do that. Our first module is getting started in Google Forms. We'll begin by signing into Google Apps and learning how to use the Google Apps menu. We'll move on to accessing forms from Google Drive. Then we'll create a new form and add questions to the form. You'll learn how to preview a form, and we'll end this module by creating a new form using a template. So the first thing we're going to do is sign into Google When you're signing into Google from the google.com page, you're signing into all of the Google apps. So it's kind of like a Google Universal sign-in. And we're going to do that by using the blue sign-in button in the upper right-hand corner. Now, I'm going to be using 2 different accounts during this course, and I'm going to sign into both of them so that I can toggle back and forth at any time. Once you click sign in, you'll be able to put in your email or phone number, and I will give my disclaimer at this time. The emails that I'm using during this course are only for this course, and I will not be replying to any emails that may be sent to the email address. So once I put in my email, I'm going to click the next button, and it's going to prompt me for my password. And you have the ability to show the password, so you make sure you're typing it correctly. Once you have that in, you're going to go ahead and select Next. So now if you look in the upper right where the sign-in button used to be, you have a letter representing your name. If you have a photo of yourself in your Google account, the photo would be showing there. Now, I'm going to log into another account. I'm going to click on my letter, the letter T in the upper right corner, and then it lets me add another account. So when I click on that, it gives me the sign-in screen, and I'm going to put in another business email address. That again is just for this course, and I will not reply to any emails sent to either of these email addresses. I'm going to choose Next, and I'll go ahead and put in the password for this second account and choose Next. So now it changes my letter, but both of those accounts are signed into. So if I click on the letter A in my case in the upper right-hand corner, I'm already signed into the other one, and I can switch to that one. So the other thing I'm going to do just for viewing is I'm going to make sure that my address bar and everything is not showing, so I get more screen space. And I'm back on my, what I will call my primary account, is the one that's represented by the letter T. There are quite a few ways that you can access forms. The most direct way is by using the Google Apps menu. And the Google Apps menu is that series of dots in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm pointing to it on my screen. It's to the left of your letter or your picture for your account information. And so when you click on that, you'll see all of the Google apps that you have access to. And Forms is one of them. Go ahead and click on Forms. And that is the most direct way of getting into Forms, by using the Google Apps menu. So let's say you're working in Google Drive and you want to create a form. Let's go back to our Apps menu and go into Google Drive. And Google Drive is used to store files and folders and things of that nature. It's not just for Google apps. You can upload Microsoft Office files, PDFs, all types of files to Google Drive. And so if you're in a personal account, Google account, you won't have priority on the left side. I have this because I'm in a business account. It has nothing to do with what we're doing with Google Forms. So you'll be sitting in your My Drive where you can see your folders and files or upload them here. But the point of this is how to access a form. If you're working in Google Drive, you don't have to go back to the Apps menu to work on a form. On the left side, which is known as the menu, go ahead and click the New button. And then you'll see on the list, there's Google Forms. And if you click on the arrow to the right of it, you can start a blank form, a blank quiz, or a form from a template. and we're going to choose blank form. So it takes you back into Google Forms, and it's set up for you to create a form, which we're going to do next. So with our untitled form, if you notice at the top in the upper left, it says untitled form. You can go back to the Forms home page from here using that purple icon to the left of untitled form. Over on the right, you have a couple of icons, and we'll review them as we go. You have the ability to send a form. You have a more ellipsis where you can make a copy, do other things with a form. You have your account information on the right. Underneath that, you are on the Questions tab. There's also a Responses and Settings tab, which you'll learn about during this course. So underneath that, you have Untitled Form and Form Description. We're going to click where it says Untitled Form. And I'm going to do Control A to select the text Untitled Form. And we're going to name it Google Workspace Survey. And for a form description, we're going to put potential training leads and then a dash Google Apps. So we're giving the form a title and a description. And notice you have the ability to change the font, to insert a link, to do a numbered or bulleted list there, and to remove any formatting underneath it. When you create a new form, it gives you where you can put the title and the description, and it also gives you an untitled question. Let's click on that untitled question. So where it says untitled question, you're going to type Gmail. And over to the right, you'll see that it switched it from radio buttons, right? Option 1 was there. It switched it to short answer. We're going to do the drop down on short answer, and we're going to choose linear scale. And it defaults underneath where we type Gmail, it defaults 1 to 5. And you get the opportunity to give the labels, the 1 and the 5 labels, right? So I'm going to click where it says label optional next to the 1. And I'm going to type don't use. For the number 5 label, I'm going to type use daily. So this question doesn't make much sense right now. I mean, it just says Gmail 1 to 5. In Module 2, we're going to make it make more sense by explaining what these choices are. But in the meantime, we're going to create more choices based on the Google Apps. So what we're going to do at the bottom, you'll see the duplicate, the 2 pieces of paper. Let's go ahead and duplicate Gmail, right? And so above our duplicate now, you'll see what it looks like. Gmail, and then it has 1 that says don't use, 5 use daily. On the duplicate, we're going to double click on Gmail, and we're going to type Sheets. We're going to duplicate Sheets and change it from Sheets to Docs. We're going to duplicate Docs and change it from Docs to Slides. And then I'm going to have you duplicate Slides on your own and change it to Forms. We have 2 more that we want here, Calendar and Contacts. So go ahead and create duplicates so you can change one to Calendar and the other to Contacts. So in the next module, we're going to add a section that will give more information about these Google app choices we just listed with a linear scale. And you see how duplicate can be handy, so you don't have to label all the time. You're getting the same 1 to 5 linear scale with the labels already on there. At any point along the way of form creation, you can preview your form to see what it's going to look like. And to do that, we're going to use one of the icons on the upper right. And the one that we're going to use is the eyeball. If you hover over it, it says preview. Go ahead and select that. So this is showing what your form looks like currently. And so if you were to send it out, this is what the recipient would see. And at the bottom, it has the submit and the clear form button. But you can preview at any time. When you preview a form, it opens a new tab in your browser. So this is my preview tab, and I'm going to close it. There's the form that we were building. I have my Drive tab open still. And since we went into Google Forms itself earlier, that is also open. I'm going to go ahead and close the Google Forms tab and leave my untitled form and my Drive tabs open. Now, we're going to switch away from this form. It's still in progress. In the next module, we'll come back to it and finish designing it and adding more questions and so on and so forth. But we're going to move to a different topic right now, which is creating a new form using a template. Before we do so, in the upper left where it says Untitled Form, just click there and you'll see that it takes the title that you put on the form, Google Workspace Survey. Until you click in there, it doesn't typically update. You have to click in there to get the updated title. And you'll notice to the right, it says all changes are saved in Drive. So the work that we've done is not lost. We're going to click on the form's home icon to the left of Google Workspace Survey. And that will take us to our Forms homepage. So you can see here under Recent Forms, we have our Google Workspace Survey. And now we're going to create a form using a template. So if you notice up here, Start a New Form, you have your blank form, which we did from Drive, right? Time off requests, event feedback. There's a template gallery over here where you can open the templates. Or, well, these are if you have any in from your organization. And then General tab, if you're in a regular account, you would have the General tab as well, or you should. And then it has, you know, the forms, the templates that are built in. So I'm going to just use the back arrow to the left of Template Gallery at the top to get back to the home page. And I'm going to select the Time Off Request template by clicking on it. So this is a pre-built form template that can be modified. And so we're on the Questions tab. And it gives it a title of Time Off Request. It has a description. Please submit the times you need to take off work and the type of leave you are taking. So it wants the person's name, and the type of answer is a short answer text. It's asking for the leave dates. Short answer text, so like January 15th through January 20th, something like that. It wants to know if you need AM, PM, or all day. It has two type of leaves. One is a description, and it's optional. And the other one gives the choices. It almost looks like Latin text as a placeholder there. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of this optional, the first type of leave. So I'm going to select that question, and then to its right, you see you have your duplicate, you have your delete, we're going to choose the trash can to delete that question. Lets you know in the bottom left that the item was deleted, and you can undo it from there. Or up on these icons, you also have undo and redo icons. So we got rid of a question that we don't want on our time off request. We're going to leave the second type of leave, but what we want to do is get rid of what looks to be Latin text and just say description. I'm going to get rid of the Latin text, and I'm going to change description if needed to choose the type of leave you are requesting. And so you can take a template and you can modify it to suit your needs. So that's type of leave. I'm going to continue to scroll down. We have reason for leave, and it's a long answer, text answer. Well, we want to modify that somewhat. We want to put some limits on it in terms of how many characters their answer can be. So when I select that question, in its bottom right corner, I'm going to go to the ellipsis options button, and I'm going to choose response validation. And so I'm going to leave it on length, right? And the maximum, I'm going to change it from minimum character count by using the drop down to maximum character count. And then I'm going to put in 300. And then to the right of that, I can put in custom error text. So if somebody tries to put in more than 300 characters as their response, they will see the custom error text. And so the custom error text is going to be, please limit your response to 300 characters. And just to be even clearer, what I like to do when I do a validation response, I like to kind of give them a tip off in the question. So the question is reason for leave, and I'm going to click after leave, and in parentheses, limit 300 characters. And by the way, response validation is only available for short answer, long answer, and checkbox answer types. Long answer, also known as paragraph. So short answer, paragraph, and checkboxes are the only three answer types that allow you to have response validation. And let's go ahead and preview our time off request form based on the template with our modifications. And so you'll notice that because we used a template, and you'll learn how to do this a little bit later in the course, because we used a template, some of these questions are coming up as required. So the ones that have the red asterisk to the right of them are required. So the only one that's not required is the reason for leave at the bottom. And now that I'm done previewing the form, I'm going to close the preview tab in my browser. And from the form itself, the time off request form, I'm going to just go back to the form's home page at this time. By way of recap, in our first module, Getting Started, we began by signing into Google Apps. You learned that you can sign into multiple Google accounts and be able to switch back and forth between them. You learned how to access forms by using the Google Apps menu, and then we access forms from Google Drive. We created a new form, we added questions to the form, we previewed the form, and we ended this module by creating a new form using a template. In Module 2, we'll be working with form questions over 6 lessons. We'll get started by modifying questions, and then reordering them. You'll learn how to insert titles and sections and how to work with sections. We'll move on to showing questions based on answers and end with making a question required. So before we go back to our original form, our Google Workspace survey form, I just want to point out something else from the Forms homepage. To the left of Forms, you have these 3 lines. If you hover over it, it's main menu. And if you click on that, you can see that you can get to Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Settings, Help and Feedback, and Drive from that menu. I'm going to just click anywhere and it collapses the menu. I'm going to click on our Google Workspace survey form, and I might change the order of the lessons in this module a little bit. So far, we have the title and description, and we have a separate question for the apps that we listed. So we want to make it a little bit more clear as to what these questions are pertaining to. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and insert a title. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the top question is selected. And you'll notice there's been this toolbar that even if you scroll down through the questions, it tends to stay on your screen on the right-hand side. From that toolbar, you can add a question. You can import questions, which we'll get to do later. You can add a title and a description, add an image, you can add a video, and you can add a section. We're going to click on Add Title and Description, the 2 T's. And so we get this untitled title block, and in its upper center, you'll see a series of dots. When you put your mouse over those dots, it gives you the ability to move that title to a different position. And so I'm going to click and hold on the dots where I have the 4-headed arrow, and I'm going to drag it up so it's above the Gmail question. Where it says Untitled Title, I'm going to do a Control-A just to select that text. And I'm going to just type Primary Apps and a colon. And then it's going to be, please rate these apps by how often you use them. And in parentheses, I'm going to type the number 1 equals don't use. I'm going to do a semicolon. 5 equals use daily, and close the parentheses, type a period. And now I'm going to do a Control-A to select all the text, and I'm going to make it bold. Now the description is optional and we don't want to use it, so I'm going to go over to the ellipsis to see more options and click on description so it doesn't show. And then I click away from that, and now it makes the Gmail, Sheets, Docs, and other apps make more sense instead of just being listed with their linear scales. When it comes to modifying questions, it's just an edit. So that title that we just added, we're going to modify that. Get rid of primary apps and the colon at the beginning. And then we're going to change it to say, please rate these primary Google apps by how often you use them, with the 1 equal don't use and 5 equal use daily in parentheses. So quick and easy to modify a question. If you have a need to reorder questions, you can drag and drop them to a different position. Notice if you hover over any of the questions, it has those 6 dots in its upper center. And so what we want to do is we want Gmail, and then after Gmail, we want Forms. So I'm going to go down to the forms question, click and hold, and start dragging it up. I went too far, so it's underneath the Gmail question. And then we would like docs under forms. So go ahead and make that change. So you should have Gmail, forms, docs, then sheet, slide, calendar, and contacts. Now we're going to create another section for this form. So let's select our last question, the contacts one. And then we're going to use that toolbar on the right. And the bottom choice is to add a section. So you'll notice after contacts, it now says after section 1, continue to next section. There's a drop down arrow to the right of that. So it defaults to going to the next section. You could change it to go to section 1, go to section 2, or to submit the form. So it would have submit the form after they complete section 1. We're going to leave it on its default choice. And then you have a new section, section 2 of 2 at the bottom, and it is currently untitled. And we're going to call it, so that untitled section, we're going to call it Additional Google Apps. And for this one, for the description, we're going to hide it. And notice it's not letting me hide the description here. It lets you hide the description on a title, but not on a section. So that's fine. And now to the right, we're going to use the toolbar again, and we're going to add a question using the plus sign. And the question is going to be, select any additional Google apps you currently use. And so it's defaulting to checkboxes, which we want. We want them to be able to select more than one thing. So we're going to click where it says option 1. And this is going to be chat. And then right underneath that, you're going to click where it says add option. And our second one is going to be spaces. Our third one is going to be meet. Our fourth one is going to be keep. The fifth one, tasks. And last but not least, drive. And I'm going to just go back up to the second section, select additional Google apps, and make that bold. Now let's go back to the top of our Google Workspace survey form, and you're going to learn how to show questions based on answers. Let's make sure that our title is selected, the Please Rate These Primary Google Apps title. And over on our toolbar to the right, we're going to add a question, and then we're going to drag the title underneath the new question and above Gmail. So our new question is going to be, do you use Google Workspace apps? Question mark. Instead of having a multiple choice answer, we're going to change the answer type to drop down. And the first option is going to be yes. And the second option is going to be no. And when I did my down arrow to go down to the second option, it automatically populated with no. So we have a yes and a no on the drop down. So now we are going to go to the ellipsis down on the bottom right of that question. and we're going to choose Go to Section based on answer. So now to the right of yes, it says continue to next section, which if you look at the drop down, right, it would be the Google Workspace survey section, and we're going to leave that for the yes answer. For the no answer, we're going to do the drop down next to continue to next section, and we're going to choose submit form. So if they don't use any Google Workspace apps, they can just submit the form. They're not going to answer the other questions. Now, the other thing we're going to do with that new question we added is we're going to make it required. So in the lower right corner, you can just toggle required so that it's on. And that's the only required question on this form. So let's take a look at it in preview. And you can see your, do you use Google Workspace apps, right? Yes. And then no. You can see that on the drop down. It doesn't mimic the behavior of the actual form, but you get to see those choices, and that it has the asterisk for required. To recap Module 2, working with form questions, I changed the order of the lessons around a little bit, but essentially, you learned how to modify questions, how to reorder questions. We inserted a title in sections. You learned how to work with sections, how to show questions based on answers, and how to make a question required. In Module 3, we'll begin managing form responses. We have 5 lessons in this module. We'll start by sending a form, and then we'll get the opportunity to fill out a form. We'll review form responses, link a form to a spreadsheet, and then we'll be able to view responses in a linked spreadsheet. I'm back in my form, not the preview, and now we're ready to send this form. So I'm going to go ahead and click the send button in the upper right corner. When you go to send a form, it defaults to sending via email. You also have the opportunity to send a link or to get a link to embed into an HTML window. You can share the form on Facebook or via Twitter. I'm going to go back to mail. Now, because I'm in my business account, I have the ability to automatically collect respondents' email addresses from within my company. I'm not going to check that because I already know the email addresses. And I'm going to go ahead and email this form to the other business account that I'm logged into already. The subject is always going to be the name of the form. It gives you a message, which you can change. I'm going to leave the default message. I've invited you to fill out a form. You can include the form in an email if you want to. And we'll discuss what Add Editor does a little bit later in the course. I'm going to just go ahead and click on Send. Once I send the form, I am back on the form, still in my T account. But if I look over at my browser tabs, I have another Google Workspace survey tab. And when I switch over to that tab, that is for my other account, the account that I sent the form to. So there's an email in that account, but also if that user goes to forms, they'll be able to see the form that I sent to them. And this is what this is. So on this account, I'm going to go ahead and fill out the form. So I'm going to say yes to the first one. And you should be doing the same. Give them different ratings based on how often you use the apps. And you can switch it up. And once you get to the bottom and you choose next, it's going to take you to the next section of the form, which is our additional Google Apps section. And so I can select as many of these other apps that I use. I actually use all of them, but yeah, I'll just select all of them. And then I'm going to submit the form. Now, if you made a mistake at any point, you can clear the form and go back to fix your mistakes. And I'm going to go ahead and submit. It tells me that my response has been recorded, and it gives me the ability to submit another response. I'm going to leave this browser tab app open, and I'm going to go back to my other forms browser tab where I'm logged in as T, the person who created the form. And you'll notice that I have a number 1 at the top right next to the Responses tab. So you go to the Responses tab to view your form responses. And so it's letting me know I have 1 response. And it's going through and giving me on the Summary tab there, it's showing me the questions and the responses that I got for each question, right? So I can review those like that. And then, in addition to the Summary tab, you have a Question tab where it's showing the questions in the order that they pop up, right? So the previous question, do you use Google Workspace apps? And I can go through to the next question. And then it has individual, where if I have multiple people, notice here it says 1 of 1. I only have 1 response right now. But if I had multiple people responding, I can choose to see whose responses I want to view. And notice you can print these out, and you can also delete the responses. I'm going to go back to, I'll go back to the Questions tab. And I'm going to go back to my Other User Browser tab. And I'm going to submit another response and kind of change up my answers. And I'd like you to do the same. So I've completed the survey again. I'm going to switch back to my Primary tab here. Now it tells me I have 2 responses, all right? And so I'm looking at response 1 of 2, the summary now. So the first person that responded. If I do the arrow to the right of 2, then I'm looking at the second person's responses. I can do it on a question by question basis, right? So you see for Gmail, I have 2 responses. Down here, I can go to the next question and see them one at a time. For forms, there's my 2 responses. And then individual, I'm looking at the second respondent's answers here. And now I'm looking at the first respondent's answers. The other thing you can do is you can link a form to a spreadsheet so you can view its responses that way as opposed to in Forms on the Responses tab. Now, before we do that, I just want to talk about something else when you're on the Responses tab. Let's say you wanted to have this survey out there for about 3 weeks and then end the survey. After 3 weeks, you can come into the Responses tab and you can toggle the switch next to accepting responses so that if anyone tries to fill out the form, it will no longer be accepting responses after that time. Now, in order to link the form to a spreadsheet, we're going to use this green icon above accepting responses. And so we're going to go ahead and click on that icon. And it gives you the ability to create a new spreadsheet or to select an existing spreadsheet. We're going to leave it on Create a New Spreadsheet. It will automatically give it the name of the form, and then in parentheses, it will say Responses. So we're going to go ahead and click Create. So then it opens the spreadsheet for you, and it just added a column before the first question with the timestamp so you know the date and the time that the responses came in. And you can see the responses going across the spreadsheet. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my address bar showing again so I can navigate. And this is in Google Sheets. I'm going to close this spreadsheet. And then let's say at any time I want to open that spreadsheet. I can go back to my drive, and you'll see the Google Workspace survey responses spreadsheet is already in my drive, and I can always select it and open it anytime I want, and it will give me all of the responses. I'm going to close that sheet again and go back to my form. I'm going to show you other form options that you can use. So to the right of View Responses and Sheets, it now says, because we already have it linked to a spreadsheet. To the right of that green icon, let's go to the ellipsis, the vertical ellipsis. So it's already set for you to get email notifications for new responses. You can uncheck that if you'd like. I'm going to skip Select Response Destination for a moment. If I choose Unlink Form here, it will unlink it from the spreadsheet that we attached it to. And then we could attach it to a different spreadsheet. And we could do that even from here by going to Select Response Destination. It tells you where it's currently being sent. But if we unlinked it and we came here, it would be the same as when we click the green icon to create a new one or select an existing one. I'm going to go back to the menu. I can download all the responses as a CSV. I can also print all responses and then delete all responses from this menu. In Module 3, you learned how to manage form responses. We started by sending a form. You learned how to fill out a form. And then you learned how to review form responses in Forms on the Response tab before we linked a form to a spreadsheet that automatically opened in Sheets. When we closed it, we then went into my drive to open that linked spreadsheet to view the responses. We ended by going over other response options that you have. Module 4 will see us working with form settings. We have 3 lessons in this module. We'll start by learning how to change general options, and then you'll learn how to change presentation options, and we'll end by learning how to change default settings. We're going to move from the Responses tab to the Settings tab so we can start going through these settings. So your general settings are under Settings. You can make a form into a quiz, which we will review how to do in Module 6. So we'll come back here in Module 6. Then you have one that manages how responses are collected and protected, and we can do the drop down there. So by default, the form is not collecting email addresses. If you'd like it to collect email addresses, you can turn that on. And because I'm in a business account, when I had the option to collect email addresses from within my organization. So that's just a toggle on or off if you'd like your form to collect email addresses. You can send the responders a copy of their response by turning that on if you'd like. You can allow response editing if you want. So after they submit, they can change a response. They can edit a response and change it. And then there's a section called Requires Sign-In, and currently is restricted to users in my company, that they will have to be required to sign into Google. Otherwise, there's no requirement for signing in. I'm restricting it to users in my company, but if I'm not restricting it to users in my company, it's not going to require a sign-in. And then I can choose to limit to one response. So we completed the survey twice because it's not limited to one response. And that might be something that I use for a quiz versus a survey. It just depends on the situation. For training purposes, it's obviously easier for me to leave that untoggled so that I can respond multiple times to the survey during this course. The next section goes over your presentation settings here. And so your presentation options. So manage how the form and responses are presented. And I can do the drop down there. Let's toggle on show progress bar. As the user is filling out the form, it will show them their progress so they know how many more questions or how much they have left to do. You can choose to have the questions shuffled, so every respondent will get a different order of questions. That could be useful for a quiz. I'm not going to toggle that on here. Then you have an after submission. You can get a confirmation message, and the default message is your response has been recorded, which we saw. If you wanted to edit that message, there is an edit button on the right side of it. And then if you're showing a link to submit another response, that's how we were able to do that. Now, under our default settings, you can watch me do this on my screen. I'll show to get both of them on the same. If I toggle limit to one response on, it disables the show link to submit another response automatically. So I'm going to leave that off because for training purposes, like I stated, it might be good to have that on. And then you have the opportunity to share the results summary with respondents. There's an important details link there. And when I click it, it opens up another like help style page, right? So the response summaries will show the full text responses or charts for each question and are visible to anyone who can respond to the form. I don't know if you want everyone to see everyone else's results, including their own. But if you do, you would want to toggle that setting to on. And then under restrictions, so as a respondent is filling out your form, it's automatically saving it along the way. And if you want to, you can disable autosave for all respondents if you have a need to do that. And the last section under settings is your default settings. So you have form defaults, and the settings would be applied to this form and any new forms. And then you have question defaults would be applied to all new questions. So let's do the drop down next to form defaults. And so here is where you can collect email addresses by default. So it would apply to this form and new forms. So every new form you do, you don't have to worry about that setting because it will collect the emails by default. And then your question defaults, I'm going to expand. This would apply to all new questions. If you want to make all new questions required by default, then you would toggle this switch. I am not going to toggle it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to my T account and switch to my A account. And when I do that, it opens up the form for me as a respondent. So I just want to show you some of the changes we made. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to the first question. And if I scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see the progress bar that we chose to turn on. So it's capturing the progress there. I'm going to go ahead and just fill out the rest of this. I'm going to use just various responses. And then I'm going to go next at the bottom and choose a couple of these responses. And then I'm going to submit. So we allow each respondent to have multiple responses, and that's why they have the ability to submit another response. You may not want to do that in real life, but for training, it's very helpful. And I'm going to switch back to my T account now. I have my third response. I'm going to go to the Google Forms homepage at this point. And from the main menu on the left, I'm going to navigate to Drive. And let me go to My Drive here. And here's it's under Suggested, but it's also in my File section. I'm going to go to my sheet with the responses in it and let that open in Sheets, and you'll see that it has the third response in there. So it's not like you have to be sitting in Forms every day waiting for responses to come in. You can just open the sheet when you have time to look at it. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of Sheets. In this module, we worked with form settings. We went through the general options. We visited the presentation options, and we looked at the default setting options. So we changed a few options. We resubmitted a form so that we could see those options. And then we reopened the spreadsheet that's capturing the responses to see that the new response is in the spreadsheet. In the fifth module, we'll focus on changing form appearance. We have 3 lessons in this module as well. We'll start by modifying the theme and background colors, move on to changing the font, and then we'll be adding a header image. And for this one, we have a file in the video description named Learnit Logo. You'll want to grab all of the files from the video description and put them in a directory on your computer. And now I'm back on my Forms homepage, and I'm going to reopen our Workspace survey form. And so now we're going to get to make the form more user-friendly by changing its appearance. We're going to start by modifying the theme and the background colors. So this is when we use this palette icon up on the top where it says Customize Theme. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And so under Theme, you have the text style for the header, the question, and the text. You can choose a header image, which we're going to do a little bit later in this module. And you can change your theme color and background color here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different font, but I want the same font for the header, the question, and the text. And so I'm going to do the drop down next to Roboto, and I'm going to go with Montserrat. And actually, I'm going to do the drop down and choose, I'm going to hover over Montserrat and choose, pops up on my left, and I'm going to choose bold for that. And then for the question, I'm going to change it to Montserrat, just plain Montserrat for every question. And then for any text that's like in the answers, that's also going to be Montserrat. Answers, descriptions, that kind of thing. So I like consistency with the font. It's just my personal choice, but you can choose what text types, what font types you want for header, question, and text separately. I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to choose an orange color for my theme, and then the background, I'm going to make it a different orange color, right? So the orange is showing like on my sections and stuff like that. And the other color is showing in the background, just to give it a little bit more visual appeal. So now I am going to close this theme panel on the right by using its X in the upper right hand corner. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use that Learnit logo that we brought in from the files from the video description to add a header image. So you'll see what's going to happen when we're going to do that. We can go back to the palette to bring up that theme panel on the right again. And underneath header, we're going to click on choose image. And so they give you some theme images here that you can use. You can upload images and you can also use photos. So if I go to upload, it lets me know that I can browse or drag a file here, and we're going to end up doing that with the Learnit logo. If I go to photos, it says no photos were found in your account. If I had photos in my Drive account, they would show up here. Let's go back to upload, and I'm going to just choose browse and navigate to wherever you put that Learnit logo. And I'm going to just double click it. And it will upload it, and I'm going to choose done at the bottom. I'm going to close the theme panel for a moment. And so the Learnit logo is coming in kind of blurry. Notice it changed the color scheme from what I chose for my orange and lighter orange colors for the theme in the background. It changed that so it matches more of the colors in that Learnit logo. Well, I decide that that doesn't look good in here. So up on the top, I'm going to use my undo button. It gives me back my colors. And if I undo again, it will get rid of the logo. So we're going to go back into our palette to customize the theme. We're going to click on choose image again, and you can pick any image here, and they have them categorized. There's work in school, there's illustrations, birthdays, all kinds of different categories. I'm going to leave it on work in school, and I'm just going to choose something that's interesting for me. And once you select something at the bottom, click the blue insert button, and it will insert that image that you selected. Now, it changed my color scheme again. It's always going to do that. So the moral to the story is, if you're going to use a header image, you might want to do the image before you change your theme and background colors. You can still adjust them if you like, but I'm happy with the coloration it gave it to match the image I selected. So that's how you go about adding a header image to a form. In Module 5, we focused on changing form appearance to make it more visually appealing and user-friendly. We started by modifying the theme and background colors and changing the font type. And then we added a header image. We used the Learnit logo. You learned how to undo that. And then we added one of their built-in illustration images. And we saw how when you add an image, it will change the theme and background colors that you selected. So I suggested that you add an image first before doing your theme and background colors. Module 6 will be using forms to create a quiz over 6 lessons. We'll start by setting up a form as a quiz. We'll then add an answer key and also add feedback to answers. In the 4th lesson, we'll change options for releasing grades, go on to sending emails to respondents with answers, and then we'll end by making a copy of a form. I'm going to navigate back to the forms homepage. And we're going to create a form and make it into a quiz now. So let's start with a blank form. And we are immediately going to go to the Settings tab and toggle on Make This a Quiz. So when you toggle Make This a Quiz, you get some different settings here, right? So under Release Grades, you can release the grades by default immediately after each submission or later after manual review, and it's telling you go ahead and collect email addresses there. We're going to leave it on immediately for now. Your respondent settings. For missed questions, respondents can see which questions were answered incorrectly. I'm going to leave that toggled on. And for correct answers, respondents can see correct answers after grades are released. I'm going to leave that on. And also that the respondents can see total points and points received for each question. Now, these are choices depending on, your setting where you're giving the quiz, but I'm going to leave all three of those respondent settings set to on. And then you have global quiz defaults. So the default question point value would be for every new question globally for any quiz. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put 20 points for this one. We're going to be doing 5 question quizzes, each question worth 20 points. So then you have the same options for responses, presentation, and your default settings. So now I'm going to go back to the Questions tab. And we're going to name this quiz, so the untitled form, we're going to name it State Capital Quiz 1. And for the description, I'm going to put Alabama - California. And then I'm going to go down to the untitled question that's there. And I'm going to make it, I think I want this to be a drop down. And the question itself is going to be, what is the capital of Alabama? It changed it to short answer. I'm going to put it back on drop down. The first option is going to be Birmingham. You can use your tab key or your down arrow key to get to the next option. That's going to be Mobile. And the third and last option is going to be Montgomery. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to spell Alabama correctly. And then I'm going to go ahead and now this is where you have to make a choice. You can duplicate it or you can just add a new question. I'm going to duplicate this one. And I'm going to change it from Alabama to Alaska. And now I'm going to change the options as well. So the option is going to be, the first option is going to be Fairbanks. The second one is going to be Juneau. And the third one is going to be Anchorage. I think in some cases it's easier to just duplicate them and change them. So I'm going to continue to do that. The next one after Alaska is going to be Arizona. First option is going to be Tucson. Second option, Phoenix. And the third option is going to be Mesa. Duplicate. The next state after Arizona is going to be Arkansas. First option, Little Rock. Second, Fayetteville. And third, Fort Smith. And then we have one more to do, so might as well duplicate. And this is going to be California for the state. And our choices for California are going to be Los Angeles. Second choice, San Clemente. And third choice, Sacramento. So we have our 5-question quiz here. So Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, and California. And they're all drop downs. So now I'm on the what is the capital of Alabama question. And I'm going to go down in its lower left corner and click on answer key. And this is where we choose, it tells you at the top to choose the correct answer here. So we're going to choose Montgomery. That's the correct answer. Now it should have, I thought I told it to make each question by default 20 points. It didn't do that. So I'm going to just do it at this question. It's worth 20 points. And then I'm going to choose done for that question. So now you'll see it says answer key and then it shows the 20 points. For Alaska, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to answer key. The correct answer is Juneau. We're going to give it 20 points as well. And choose done. For Arizona, we're going to do the same. Arizona's capital is Phoenix. And that is also worth 20 points. For Arkansas, the correct answer for the capital is Little Rock, also 20 points. And then we're at California, and that one is Sacramento, again, 20 points. So this way, we chose some settings. Let's go back to settings for a moment, right? And so for these respondent settings, respondents can see which questions were answered incorrectly because we put in an answer key. The same for the correct answers after the grades are released because of the answer key, and the same for point values there. So I'm going to go back to the questions tab. So now that we have our answer key for each question, we're going to add feedback to answers. For Alabama, we're going to go back to answer key. And at the very bottom, we're going to click Add Answer Feedback. So for incorrect answers, we can either put in feedback, we can either supply a link so it will link them to somewhere else, or we can direct them to a YouTube video. So we're on the Incorrect Answers tab here for Alabama. And the feedback they're going to get if they put an incorrect answer, it's just going to say incorrect. We're going to go to the Correct Answers tab. and we'll do correct. And I like to put an exclamation point on that one. And save. So then it shows you the feedback for correct and incorrect answers. We're going to do the same feedback for the other 4 remaining questions. When you're done at the bottom for each one, you're going to want to click done. I'll do one more with you, and then you'll do the rest on your own. So we're going to go to the Alaska question, click on answer key, click on add answer feedback. I'm going to type incorrect, go to the correct answers tab, and that's going to be correct with an exclamation point. And done. Go ahead and do the same for the remaining 3 questions. So now I have my feedback for all of the questions here, correct or incorrect. So now I like to point out in the upper right-hand corner, it lets you know the total points for the quiz. We have 5 questions, 20 points each. There's your 100. We want to test this, and so I'm going to send it to my other email account for the purposes of this course. It's just like sending other form. And I'm going to just send the form to my A account. I'm going to go ahead and click send. And then I'm going to switch to my A account to access that form. And so I want to purposely get a couple of the answers wrong so that I can see the feedback that we put in. So I'm going to do Alabama. I'm going to choose Montgomery, just the first one. I'm going to choose Fairbanks for Alaska. Phoenix for Arizona. Little Rock for Arkansas. And I'll do San Clemente for California. And go ahead and submit. So now it says view score, right? And I click on that, and this is where I'll see it gives me my feedback, correct, right? This one I got wrong on purpose, incorrect. 2 more corrects, and then an incorrect at the end. So I got 2 out of 5 wrong, and in the top right corner, it gives me my total points, 60 out of 100. And I'm going to close that tab. And because we haven't disabled it, I could submit another response here, but for a quiz, you would probably want to disable that. I'm going to close that tab as well, and then be back in my original account where I created the quiz. And so when I'm there, I can go to my responses tab as usual, right? So I have summary, question, individual, only 1 response. So there's my points scored, right? And it has average, median, and range. But since we only have 1 response, the insight section has this total points distribution here. And then frequently missed questions, again, based on the 1 response. And then the scores with the email. And it says the score was released. My alter ego account was able to see it. And then it goes for each question, how they did, right? So this one is 1 correct response, 0 of 1 correct response, got that one wrong on purpose, so on and so forth. So you saw the behavior when we responded as a respondent to the quiz, and we were able to see what answers were incorrect. It also gave us the correct answer for those that we got incorrect. Let's go back to settings for a moment. And under release grades, we left it set immediately after each submission. And so they were able to view the results and see everything. let's change it to later after manual review. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to my questions tab. I'm going to just send this to my A account again. And send. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my A account and retake the quiz. So this time I'm going to try to get everything right. So the first one should be Montgomery. Then we have Juneau for Alaska, Phoenix, Little Rock, and Sacramento. And I'm going to submit. So notice here it doesn't give me the ability to go in and view my results because of that setting change. Now I've switched back to my T account and I now have 2 responses in here. And I'm going to go to the second response, right? And now here it says the score is not released. If I go to the first response, it tells me the score was released and the date and time that it was released. If I go to the second response, it lets me know the score is not released. So I can then release the score, right? And it would send an email to the respondent and release their scores. So they'll get an email with their responses in it. And so I'm going to go back to settings at this point, and I'm going to change that back to immediately after each submission. For me, this type of quiz doesn't warrant me having to do a manual review, collecting email addresses, and having to go in and release the scores for each respondent. So I'm going to change it back to immediately after each submission. And the last thing we're going to do in this module is learn how to make a copy of a form. So in between your send button and your account information, you have that more ellipsis. We're going to click on that and we're going to choose make a copy. So I'm going to cancel out of here. So you notice it said make a copy of an untitled form. I'm going to click up on the upper left where it says untitled form. So it populates with state capital quiz 1. And then I'm going to go back to more and make a copy. So I'm going to name the copy. I'm going to get rid of copy of and change the 1 at the end to a 2. The thinking is that we're going to do, well, we're not going to do, we're going to do more of these state capital quizzes, but the next one will use the next 5 states in alphabetical order kind of thing. So we're just getting it set up. Notice it's going to put it in your My Drive folder. And at the bottom, I'm going to choose Make a Copy. So notice up here, it now says State Capital Quiz 2. That's the copy. We didn't change anything on it. So it's still showing in the heading here that it's Quiz 1. But that's the copy of the one that we did. And I'm going to navigate to My Drive now. Because that's where it told me it was going to put it. So let's see. Let me refresh. Sometimes it gets a little static. Yeah, so there, it's there now. So State Capital Quiz 1. And if I'm looking in My Drive, it lets me know there's new responses, right? Every time there's new responses that you haven't seen or whatever will show there. And then this one we just created right now. So I'm going to go back to Forms. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to close one of my form screens, go back to the other. And I'm going to just go to the Forms homepage at this point. In Module 6, we used a form to create a quiz, and we started by changing a setting, which changed a form into a quiz. We added some questions to the quiz, then we added an answer key and added feedback to the answers. You learned how to change options for releasing grades. So when we first took the quiz as a respondent, we allowed the respondent to see their results right then. And then we went and changed it and said that we would email the results after a manual review. And we saw how to set that up. And we changed it back to the default, because if you don't have to do the extra work, you shouldn't. And when we learned how to send the emails to the respondents with their answers once we had the option changed for that. And then we ended by learning how to make a copy of a form. It just so happened to be a quiz, but you can make a copy of any form or form that's been turned into a quiz. In Module 7, we're going to be adding images and videos to a form. Now, we've already added an image to a form header. In this module, we're going to start with adding an image to a question and then adding an image to a form. We'll end by adding a video to a form, and you have a Word document from the files from the video description that's entitled Link to YouTube Video for Form. And there's just another note here. If you're using a Google Workspace account for this course, the account must be older than 30 days in order to be able to add a video to a form. Now I'm back in State Capital Quiz 1, and this is on this quiz, we're going to add images to questions to the form, and we're also going to add a video to the form. So let's start with the first question. What is the capital of Alabama? I'm going to select that one. And you'll notice to the right of the question, there's a little image icon, and we're going to click on that. So you have the ability to upload images, to have images brought in directly from your webcam, to be able to put in a URL of an image, to go to photos. If you had them in your drive, they would show there. We are going to use Google Images, and we're going to click in the search box at the top. And we're going to type Alabama State Seal and press enter. So it will bring up a bunch of Google images of the Alabama State Seal. I'm going to just click on the first one, and at the bottom, I'm going to choose Insert. And it's going to load the image into that question. And it brings it in bigger than we would want it to be. So if I click on the image, I'll see the sizing handles in each corner. I'm going to grab the bottom right sizing handle and start dragging it up. I'm resizing the image down. Definitely don't want it to be that big in the question. And I'm going to size it down a bit more. Kind of like that. We're not going for exactness here at this moment. So that is how you add an image to a question. Let's scroll down to the next question for Alaska. Click its image button. Go to Google Images. Click in the search box. And it's State Seal of Alaska. And I'm going to choose the first one. Well, I'm going to actually choose this one. And when I click Insert, and you're going to have to size it down as well. So I'm going to just make sure I select it so I can see its sizing handles. And size it down just a bit more. Kind of like that. So go ahead and get the State Seal images for Arizona, Arkansas, and California and size those down as well. I'll show you my finished work when you're done. So when you're done, you have your Arizona, Arkansas, and California state seals. And those are images that are added to a question. In order to add an image to the form itself, you're going to use the right sidebar menu where we used it to add questions, sections, and titles earlier. And we're going to use the add image icon there. We have the same choices here. We're going to continue to use Google Images. And this time for the form image, we're going to do US map. And so I'm going to grab one that actually has the state names on them. I'll grab the first one and choose Insert. So notice it puts it at the bottom and you get to give the image a title. And we're going to title it Map of the United States. And perhaps we want to move it to the top. So it has that move dot formation. And I'm going to click and hold and start dragging it up. And now it's right underneath the title. And I'm going to just make the font for Map of the United States. I'm going to select the font and make it bold. And so your options for this image are to duplicate it, delete it, and then you have that you can show hover text, right? So you can put in text to show when you hover. I'm going to go back to that menu and deselect that. So now, and by the way, if we wanted to delete an image that we added here, like in the text of the question, we don't want to select it. So deselect it. And then you'll see its menu ellipsis. And if we click that, we can align it. We can change the image from here. We can remove it. And we can add a caption to an image that's in a question. So I've opened the Word document from the video description, the link to the YouTube video for form, and I'm going to copy that link. And then I'm going to switch back over to our form. On the right sidebar, I'm going to choose the Add Video icon. And you can search YouTube for videos, or you can, if you have the URL, which we do, I'm going to go to the URL tab and choose Control V to paste it in. If it's a successful link, you'll see a preview of the video on the screen. And so at the bottom, I'm going to choose the select button on the lower left-hand side. And I'm going to name this video State Capital Song. And I'm going to make that bold. And so we have the same menu that we had, right, where we can align the video. I'm going to center align it. And you have the same options that you have for an image picture. And then you can duplicate it. You can put it in the trash, and or you can show a caption. So it put the video after the first question, and I think I want to move the video to the bottom after the last question. Now, I wouldn't really put a video in a quiz about state capitals that's telling everybody about the state capital, but I actually enjoy that video. I'm weird like that. So if I want to play the video, I've gone into preview mode, and I'm going to go down to the bottom. You'll see the play button on the video, and I realize I need to move the video down more. I thought it was all the way at the bottom. So preview mode is handy for that as well. So if you want to listen to the video, you can do it while you're in preview mode. And you can see that I've gone back to the form and changed the position. So the song is at the bottom now. So in Module 7, we made our quiz more interesting by adding images and videos to it. We started by adding images to each question on the quiz. We learned how to resize the images. We also added an image to the form and then moved it to the top of the form. And we ended by adding a video to a form, which we moved to the bottom of the form, and we went into preview mode so we could actually view the video. In our 8th and final module, we'll be using additional form features over 7 lessons. We'll start by learning how to allow respondents to attach files as a form response. And then you'll learn how to upload a file from your computer. We'll be using a file from the video description, a Word document named Sample Resume. In Lesson 3, you'll learn how to upload a file from My Drive. And we'll be using a PDF document that's also in the files for the video description, also entitled Sample Resume. In the 4th lesson, you'll learn how to locate uploaded files in My Drive, and then we'll move on to creating a pre-filled form. In the 6th lesson, you'll learn how to import form questions, and we'll end by creating a form template, which is the only lesson in this course that requires a Google Workspace account. If you don't have a Google Workspace account, you'll be able to see the process in case you get one in the future. I'm back on the Google Forms homepage, and from here we're going to create a new form, and then you'll learn how to allow respondents to attach files with their form response. So let's just click on blank to start a new form. And we're going to give this form a title. We're going to call it Job Application. That's good enough for now. And we don't need a form description, so we'll just leave that the way it is. And then for our first question, it's just going to be name. And we're going to leave it on short answer. We want to make it required. And then we're going to use our sidebar to add another question. And this one is going to be position desired. And we'll leave it multiple choice with the option buttons instead of check boxes. So we'll leave it multiple choice. And we're going to do the first one I'm going to put in is trainer. The next one is going to be senior, and I'm abbreviating it, trainer. And last but not least, training manager. And we're going to add another question. And this one is going to say, upload your resume. And for the answer type, we're going to change it here from multiple choice. And we're going to choose file upload. And so let respondents upload files to Drive. they will be uploaded to the form owner's drive, and they'll be required to sign in to Google when file upload questions are added to a form. Make sure to only share this form with people you trust. I'm going to select continue. And then it gives me more choices here. I'm going to toggle on allow only specific file types. And I'm going to choose document and PDF. The maximum number of files, I'll leave it on 1. And I'm comfortable with the maximum file size. I can change it if I wanted to. And down here, I can go to View Folder in the lower right corner. And it takes me to my drive where it created, well, it has the untitled form. The form didn't click to make it titled. But then it has file responses. And then it has upload your resume file responses. So this folder is where the resumes are going to go to. And so I'm going to just switch back over to forms. And I also want to make this question required. And let's see. Yeah, so all of them are required. I'm making all 3 of these questions required. Now, I'm well aware that there would be a whole bunch more questions on a job application. But the purpose of this is how to show how to allow respondents to attach files to their responses. And so we've done that successfully. Now I'm going to click in the upper left where it says Untitled Form, so it fills it with the name of the form. Now we're going to send this form to our other email. I'm going to send it to my A account so that you'll be able to complete the form. And we're going to be using a Word document called Sample Resume that's in the files for the video description for this. So go ahead and send it and then switch over to your other account to Forms. And I'm going to put my name in as Alter Ego. I'll say I want to be a trainer. And then where it says upload my resume, I'm going to go ahead and add a file. I'm going to leave it on upload and choose browse. And then I'll see the Word document, sample resume, and I'm going to just double click it. And it's literally just a resume template. And then I'm going to choose submit. So for this one, we probably should have said to only allow them to have 1 response, and we'll take care of that and do that on the next test. We're going to leave this screen open because we're going to want to submit another response just for training purposes. But I'm in my Alter Ego account, and I want to get to my Alter Ego account Drive application. So navigate to your secondary account's Drive application. You'll notice when you go to your secondary account, the Word document that we uploaded when filling out the job application has been automatically saved in our Drive. And now we want to upload the PDF, also named Sample Resume, to our Drive. So what I'm going to just do here on the left on the menu, I'm going to click on New, and I'm going to choose File Upload. And then I see my Sample Resume in PDF format. I'm going to double click it. And you can see that I have the same file in here, but in 2 different formats. And getting this set up like this is strictly for the purpose of being able to fill out the job application form and upload a PDF that resides in my drive or your drive. And now I'm back on the screen where Alter Ego can submit another response. And this time I'm going to use the same information. Alter Ego is my name. Just to be different for this one, I'll desire a training manager position. And this time when I go to add file, instead of uploading like we did from our computer, we're going to go to the My Drive tab. And you'll see the PDF as well as the Word one. We're going to choose the PDF one and select Insert. And then go ahead and submit. You can close this window now and switch back to your primary account. And you can see we have 2 responses. And it's just showing the information. And you have both of those documents right there that you can open from right here if you wanted to. Or you can go back to Drive by clicking View Folder. And this will be in your primary account drive. And so it's in the folder called Upload Your Resume File Responses. So all of them will be there. And notice it gives you the name of the file and then the person's name after it. So that's kind of cool. Great organization. Now I'm back in my primary account and I have the State Capital Quiz 1 open already. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a pre-filled form, meaning that the correct answers will be given. And it will actually create what's called a pre-filled link. So we're going to go up to the More ellipses to the right of the Send button. And we're going to choose Get Pre-Filled Link. And if you look in your lower left corner, it's telling you to pre-fill the responses, then click Get Link. And we're going to do just that. So we're going to choose the capital of Alabama, Montgomery. Alaska is Juneau. Arizona, we have Phoenix. Arkansas, Little Rock. And last but not least, California is Sacramento. So the scenario I'm using is we'll make believe that we didn't send this out to Alter Ego so she could be a respondent. And I need her to check and make sure that these answers are correct before I start distributing this quiz. So I want her to see if the answers I'm supplying are the correct answers. And then if I scroll to the bottom, I'll see Get Link and click that. And you're going to copy link in the box that pops up on the lower left. Now you can get that link to someone a variety of ways, emails, we're in, Google Workspace app. So I'm going to choose to use chat. And I've already gotten chat open for both of these accounts. So I'm going to go over and switch to my first chat tab, and that's the one I want to be in. At the top, I'm going to click in Find People, and I'm going to start typing my Alter Ego person and choose them. So now I have a chat going that I'm sending to Alter Ego, and I'm going to click in where it says History is on at the bottom, and I'm going to just say, please check that my answers are correct. Thanks. And then I'm going to paste Control V the link that I was given, the pre-filled link, and you can actually see the answers in the link as well. And I'm going to go ahead and send that chat. So now I'm going to switch to my other chat screen here. And you can see that Alter Ego has a chat from Trish. And Alter Ego can click on that link in the chat and it brings up the pre-filled form or the pre-filled quiz in this point. So she can check to see if the answers are correct so I can distribute it. Let's say that we've been given the task of creating a more detailed job application and we want to leave the original one intact. So I'm on the forms homepage and I'm going to start a new blank form and I'm going to title this one Detailed Job Application. And if you have a question in another form that you want to use in another form, you can use the ability to import form questions. And that's what we're going to do here. And then we'll add some more. So on our sidebar menu, the second icon is Import Questions, and we're going to select it. And when we do, it'll show us the forms that we have, and we're going to select the job application form, and then choose the select button on the lower left. And so now it will show on the right the questions that are in that form that's already existing. We're going to choose Select All. And then at the bottom, we're going to select Import Questions, and it has the number of questions that you're importing in parentheses. So I got that weird error saying that files uploaded folder in Drive couldn't be found, and I chose Restore on that error. The folder is there. Sometimes, software will do strange things, and that just happens to be one of them. So if you get an error message, you can just choose Restore, and you should be okay. And it will allow you to add another question, which I've done. So this question is going to be, what is your first available start date? And then for the answer type, it automatically changed it to date for me. So that's cool. And so when they answer, they can either put in the month, day, year, or they can choose it off of the calendar. We're also going to make this a required question. And let's see. Gave us that untitled question at the top because we did a new form. So I'm going to just drag that untitled question to the bottom so I don't have to create another one. And this question will be, what region do you live in? And the first option, we'll just keep it simple. North, south, east, and west. And so instead of recreating the first three questions, we were able to import them and then to add more questions onto this. And let's make our region question required as well. And we're going to click where it says Untitled Form so it fills in the name of the form for us. So let's say we wanted to make this into a form template. So you've seen the built-in templates that come. We used one for the time off request. I'm going to use the icon in the upper left to go back to the forms homepage. And at the top is where you'll see the template gallery with the templates that are included with the application. And so up at the top, you notice I'm on the General tab. Now, if you're in a business account, you have the ability to create your own templates. And so this is the one thing I said that you would need a business account to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Trish Training and Consulting tab, and I'm going to choose Submit Template. And then I'm going to click on Select a Form. And it defaults to recent, which is good. And I'm going to choose the detailed job application and choose Open. It's not really open, it's attaching it. So then I have this option to submit a copy of this file instead of the original. I'm going to leave it the way it is. And then I get to choose a category for it if I want. I'm going to just put in contracts, onboarding, and other forms, and select Submit. So now with the business account, I can create a bunch of forms and submit them as templates so that other users within my organization will have access to those templates. In our 8th and final module, we used additional form features. We started by allowing respondents to attach files, which is an answer response. We went on to uploading a file from your computer. We used a Word document for that. And then uploading a file from my drive, we uploaded a PDF to my drive. And then as a respondent, we attached that PDF. And then you learned how to locate uploaded files in my drive and in forms. And we moved on to creating a pre-filled form. We got a link that we sent via chat to our other email user. And that was so they could check to make sure that our answers were correct. We moved on to importing form questions. So we created a new form, a detailed job description, and we imported the 3 questions on our original job description form and then added some more. And we ended by creating a form template that requires you to have a Google Workspace business account. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing this Google Forms video course. Again, my name is Trish Connor Cato. To recap what was covered in this course, the first module was entitled Getting Started. You learned how to sign in to Google Apps and how to use the Google Apps menu to access Google Forms. We then accessed Google Drive, and you learned how to create a form from within Google Drive. We created our Workspace survey form, and we spent time adding questions to the form, and you learned how to preview a form. Then we abandoned that form for a while and created a new form using a template, and we modified some of the questions on the template, and that's where you learned how to use response validation to limit a paragraph to a certain number of maximum characters. In the second module, we began working with form questions. You learned how to modify and reorder questions. We inserted titles, and we inserted and worked with sections. You also learned how to show questions based on answers and how to make a question required. In Module 3, we switched our focus to managing form responses. You learned how to send a form, and how to fill out a form as a respondent. And then you learned how to review the form responses and how you could link a form to a spreadsheet so that you could view the responses in a linked spreadsheet, which I think is a really cool feature. In Module 4, we worked with form settings. You learned about the general options, presentation options, and default options. In the 5th module, we began changing form appearance. We modified the theme and background colors, changed the font type, and we added a header image. You learned how to get rid of an image that you add and replace it with another one. In the 6 modules, we use forms to create a quiz. So we created our state capital quiz, and you learned how to add an answer key and how to add feedback to answers. You learned about the options for releasing grades, which is pretty much immediately or when you go in after manually reviewing and choose to release them. And you also learned how to send the emails to the respondents with the answers if you're going to do it manually. And we ended that by making a copy of a form. In Module 7, we added images and videos to a form. We added an image to a question. We added an image to the form, and we added a video to the form. And in our final module, we used additional form features, including allowing respondents to attach files, uploading a file as a respondent from your computer, uploading a file as a respondent from My Drive, and then how to locate the uploaded files both in Forms and in My Drive. We moved on to creating a pre-filled form, which we sent the link via chat to our other account. And then we imported form questions when we created a more detailed job description form. We were able to import the questions from our original job description form instead of having to recreate the wheel. And then we added additional questions to it. And we ended by creating a form template that anyone in your organization can access if you have a business account and use as a starting point.